federal sphere now of funding students with disabilities as well too. And it would be, I think we need to work with the federal government on this as well too, and see what is working in other states, what models, what is the role of the federal government. Is there the National Disability Insurance Scheme? Where does this fit in? So there are a lot of big questions out there, and I think instead of just putting another band-aid on the system, I think we need to go back to the start and work on that together. I think we can do a far better job. But and putting that aside, we have students with everyday social needs. They're bringing quite complex problems to schools. We've announced additional welfare officers and in primary schools. In fact, we found out that the government, the funding for the welfare officer program, which is very, very useful, very popular in schools, is actually going to run out at the end of next year. So we announced not only to continue the program, to actually put on, have another 150 welfare officers, which would roughly cover about another 300 schools. And they go to the schools that are most in need as well too. And so we're broadening the net and the number of schools that actually would have access to those welfare officers. And also we have a huge new system of bureaucratic delay in getting the triple SOs. They're the psychologists and the speech therapists into schools. The government have come up with this bright idea whereby it's like a triage model where schools fill out an 8-page form, send it into a central office. Weeks down the track, they'll get somebody come out to their school who may not have even been to their school before, and that is taking up resources in itself, that group. So what we're saying is we would abolish that. We would have a system where schools are given the money, they can network together, or they can use it themselves with their own resources, where they use the money with the way that best suits the needs of the students in their care, and come up with more creative ways of using that. It's very, very important they develop a relationship. The school develops a relationship between the psychologist and the specialist, so that the teachers get to know the specialist and vice versa, but also the student and the student's family are comfortable with that person as well too. So that is best done in a local level, in a neighbourhood level, in a network level, in a face-to-face way, where some sort of relationship can be built up.
So one of the big issues for students and for families is affordability of education. Yes. We do still see a very strong correlation between the income of a family and their educational outcomes. So how would a value government break that link between low income and educational outcome?
There is actually a loading for schools in low socio-economic areas, and I'm afraid that a lot of that money is not, we will continue that, but I think it needs to be better targeted, and it once again goes straight to the chalk face, to the schools, with programs to reduce the costs or add the extra services that will best meet the needs of that school and that school community. So different schools for example, a low socio-economic school in the country is very different from a low socio-economic school in the western suburbs, for example, and I think we need to allow the schools to address their needs better with that extra money and the extra resources that they are receiving. There's also national partnerships money between the federal and state government. Again, a lot of that is going through the department, and a program is handed down. Here's a program that's being funded by the national partnership. You need to do this. It should be the other way around. It should be coming from the bottom up. Schools say, we've got a program we think will best meet the needs of our students, and we'll apply for that national partnerships money to do that. So there's already some existing resources there that I think can be far better used. And I think we've got to be upfront about some schools. I think are demanding payments from parents for programs to try and keep up with other schools, or just perhaps sometimes they might be programs that sometimes even misguided, perhaps, that the materials that schools that they think the students should have, and I think we've got to, schools have got to be in a position, first of all, where they're not forced to do, where the lack of funding is not going to force them to do that. But I think our schools always need to be very realistic about the community that they're serving, and what they can demand from that community.
So we've got quite a specific question about this issue from Jackie Lynch, who says, please can you ask the Liberals how they plan to tackle funding for disadvantaged state schools? Will there be more money or less?
Well, first of all, the program that there'll be more money that actually reaches the coalface for a start, because as I said, the existing national partnerships programs, the extra loading that is put onto these sorts of schools, I think could be far better used by the schools. So there'll be more flexibility for schools with that. The welfare officers, by their very nature, tend to go to those sorts of schools. So we're not only maintaining the welfare officer program in our primary schools, and that early intervention in primary schools is very, very important. We're actually going to add to that as well too. So there'll be more available there as well too. We have subject choice, or we have a lack of teachers in some subject areas, and that also tends to be in the western suburbs, the poorer areas, the country areas. So we're offering hundreds of scholarships for teachers to take up the slack in maths and languages other than English and sciences as well too. So the place we want them to go is into these schools that haven't had a good maths teacher or a good science teacher or a language other than English for a long while. So a lot of our programs that we've actually announced across the system are going to be geared towards and actually going to these schools that have got these higher needs. And I've taught in those sorts of schools, and I've seen the need there, and I know what the schools are putting up with. It was a little while ago, but the needs are still there.
And for students who fall through the net, so young people who leave school early,
yes.
It's not just children out of home care, it's also other students who leave school early because of a whole variety of reasons. What future do you see for alternative education or flexible learning options in order to assist young people get to equivalent of Year 12?
This is an area of great need. In fact, I think I'm excited about the potential actually, because there are some great programs out there. Some are offered by schools, some are offered by, as in internally in a school, other schools, specialist schools are out there, and there are also models of other outside agencies that offer special programs. And I don't think we should be putting all our eggs in one basket as to Year 9. I think this is an issue that is from late primary school right through. In fact, I think we have to put perhaps even more of an emphasis on primary school. So there's great programs out there, and what we need to have, first of all, student funding that every student attracts should go with that student. So if they leave a school or they're going to the next year to go to a school that's going to offer one of these programs, they need to take that money with them. It might be half the money if they're going to be there for half a year. It's good for them to come back into the mainstream. So I think that there's some great potential out there. We've announced some money to pilot some, but I think we need to expose the broader education community to the possibilities of what we can actually do in that area. And I've seen some great examples, and I think we can actually do this one.
Thank you.
Can I say on that, I think that ties in to some of the broader context of how important this area is and how it's all interlinked. So when you look at young people who are in the youth justice system, you look at the numbers from last year, nearly half of them have been suspended or expelled from school. So there's a very direct connection between these kids who are having trouble in the existing school system and what then happens in terms of where they go on to and what happens in the broader community context. And I think that the obvious link in the relationship between all of them, and it ties into other things like mental health, child protection, drug and alcohol as well, and family violence is, you have to tackle it at all those different points to try and stop the issues down the track.
Thank you.